Hello, everyone. It's Jordyn Smith here, the voice and the astrologer of this YouTube channel, Nonconformist Conscience. So this video is going to be geared towards Mercury and Sagittarius and the upcoming Mercury retrograde cycle that we're going to be in. And I'm also going to speak a little bit about Mars and Leo and the archetype of that as well. And I will give some dates of when Mars turns retrograde and then whenever it stations direct to. And I'll give some charts and speak to them a little bit. Before I do that, I wanted to make an announcement. I put out a poll on this YouTube channel if you would rather me do a class series going over the archetypes of astrology through the zodiac, or if you would rather me do a class series going over asteroid goddesses. So what I want to say about this is starting December 7th, I am going to do the first class of an asteroid goddess series. This is a 5-class series, and I am going to be going over some of my absolute favorite asteroid goddesses. And this is a class that's going to be held every other week. So the first one is December 7th. And we will be going over the asteroids Lilith and Ceres. And these asteroids are really about returning to one's soul nature, the natural expression of who each one of us are, the most undistorted principles of our soul nature. Lilith is really reflecting this, and Ceres is the great mother that helps nurture and facilitate this process. And then on December 21st, I'm going to go over Sophrosyne and Palacethine. These two asteroid goddesses are octave transformers. Palacethine is the octave transformer of Mercury and Uranus, and Sophrosyne is the octave transformer of Venus and Neptune. The next class will be January 4th. And that is where I'm going to go over Vesta and Juno. These are the asteroid goddesses that really represent our relationships, our karmic contracts with others, our devotion to ourselves and to others, and our relationship with Source. Then on the 18th of January, I'm going to be going over Themis and Astrea. These are the asteroid goddesses that govern the natural laws that help us to bring natural harmony and justice. And it's indicative in our charts and through transits as well. And then on February 1st of 2025, I'm going to end the class series by going over the asteroid goddesses of Kali and Hecate. And these really show our psychic abilities or the principles of how we alchemize different dynamics. They have a very scorpionic type of feel to them. So in each one of these classes, again, I will be going over 2 goddesses. They are 90 minutes long. I will be going over the myths. I will be going over the archetypes and how to utilize this in a chart. I will give a chart example, and I will answer questions that you have for that class. The way to sign up for this is on my website. If you go to booking, to the booking tab, it will give directions, and the directions are to email me and tell me which class you're wanting to take. Each class is $35. It is 90 minutes. You can show up for the live class. You will receive the recording afterwards. And if you want to purchase all 5 classes within this series, you can get it at a discounted rate. It'll be $40 less than if you were to purchase each one individually. So it would add up to being $135 for the whole package. Again, if you're wanting to attend these, go on my website, go to the booking, email me, tell me if you want to purchase all of it, or tell me the specific individual class that you would like to purchase. Again, individual classes are $35. The whole package is $135. And what else am I leaving out here? I will send you an invoice once you pay for it. After I receive your email, I will send you the link for that class or for the classes. And on my website, it tells you the dates of the classes. I will also send out, the class date in the email as well. It is going to be on Saturdays at 1 p.m. Central Time. And every other Saturday from December 7th to February 1st. So I hope to see you guys there. This is open to as many people who want to purchase this. The other thing that I wanted to put out there is my evolutionary astrology online conference lecture I did going over Cassandra, which is a 2-hour lecture. I give 2 chart examples. I go over the myth, what this is meaning archetypally, and the chart. And you can purchase that as well. Same way, you'll email me. My email's on my website. There's instructions on how to purchase it. And once you purchase it, if you so wish to do so, you can email me, tell me that that's what you want to purchase. I will send an invoice for it. Once you pay it, I will send you the recording of that class. So I wanted to offer that as well. Last but not least, Scorpios, you have about 11 days left to book the Scorpio birthday special. You can book it for whenever. It is $75, a 90-minute reading with yours truly, where I go over your soul's evolutionary intent, the bottom line of why you're here, what you came here for, what you're trying to learn, what you're trying to actualize. I will answer any questions that you have. I will also go over your solar return. And again, that's 90 minutes and it's for $75. So if you haven't done that yet and you're interested in it, you have, like I said, about 11 days left to do that before it switches over to the Sagittarius birthday special. So I'm really excited about this Goddess Goddess Asteroid Class series. I grouped them together with the ones that kind of help facilitate each other or have a common theme that goes with them. I'm really, really excited for this. I'm really excited to see who shows up, the questions you have. I love teaching this. I will also send you the slides after the class as well. I did not say that, but I will send the class slides. I have no problem doing that. So you'll get the presentation, the class slides, and the recording. If you're not able to make the live class, I will still send you the link. If you choose not to be able to come, I will still send you the recording. So there is that. And after the class series is done, those of you can purchase it later on, each individual recording. So without further ado, let's talk about what is going on. Now, next week, Monday or Tuesday, I will put out another video where I will go over the full moon that is going to be occurring soon and more of the transits. My apologies that this is coming out so late. I split time between with my kids between me and their father, and we had flooding and tornadoes this past week. My internet was out. I also had to reschedule people that were on my books and then to catch up on that. So it's been quite hectic with juggling. So again, my apologies. I feel like all of you guys who watch me give me so much grace and understanding whenever I put out these videos, and I know you look forward to them. And Sometimes I'm not able to make them as often as usual, but I try to stay pretty consistent. But I'm very open and honest about my life and what goes on. So I just really appreciate um, your grace that you give me as I put these videos out for you guys. So let's talk about first, Mercury in Sagittarius. So on my little handy dandy paper so I can talk to you about this. Mercury entered Sagittarius on the 2nd of November. It's now the 9th, and Mercury is going to station retrograde on the 25th. So Mercury and Sagittarius, let's talk about these two archetypes, Mercury and Sag. Mercury is dealing with our left brain, our logical, linear way of thinking. It is the ways in which we have deductive reasoning. It's about gathering information. It's about the ways in which in your own natal chart, the ways in which you learn, and also what you're drawn to learn or to study. Okay, it's also the messages that we see or gather. It's also about the ways in which we are able to logically put things together, okay, or to assimilate them. Mercury is co-ruled, is the co-ruler of Gemini and Virgo, whereas Gemini is how we gather information, and Gemini speaks to our early childhood learning, our different processes with our learning, whether that's through siblings, our neighbors, whomever. And then the other side of Mercury is the yin energy, whereas Gemini is yang energy. It's energy moving outward. So I'm going out, I'm looking at things, I'm studying things, I'm going to classes, I'm watching TED Talks, I'm watching YouTube videos, I'm taking in this information, I'm gathering it, this is where I feel called to gather, or where I feel called to study, or how to express myself is another way to think of Gemini. And then the Virgo side of Mercury is yin energy. So it's energy moving inwards. It's more of the feminine principle. And so it's where we're assimilating and putting together this information. All right. And then that pulls in Sagittarius, which is the sign that Mercury is going through right now. And this is very interesting because Sagittarius also correlates with the mutable axis, just as Gemini and Virgo do. All right. So Sagittarius is our right brain, our intuitive function, meaning that this Mercury in Sag is now ruled by Jupiter and Gemini. So they're in mutual reception of each other. Very fascinating. Both are going to be retrograde at the same time. That is also very fascinating to think about. So within Sagittarius, this is where we understand our intuition. It's this inner gnosis, our inner knowing. I know what I know without knowing how I know it sometimes. That can be because of prior life information and just keeping it stored within. Or it can also be because Sag and Jupiter are where we see things in non-linear terms. It's where we are seeing them in a conceptual way, right? People who have like a lot of Sag in their chart or a lot of ninth house placements are typically going to refer to themselves in concepts and inner images. They're not going to think in this kind of logical, chronological way, right? They're going to be thinking in an expansive Jupiter, Sag type of way. It's also dealing with natural law and the intuitive principle of that, of how when we see things out in nature and we observe them and we gather that, we can synthesize them. So Mercury and Sag is going from deductive to inductive reasoning. All right. It's seeing the whole before you put the pieces of the puzzle together. Like you don't have to put the pieces of the puzzle together. You don't have to see. It's like you could have, the best way for me to explain it is if you were to get a box that has the puzzle pieces in it and you were to dump it out without looking at the cover, it's like you could synthesize it together and you just know where everything goes before knowing that you do. You could just easily put it together, right? It's almost like even with people who do Rubik's cubes, like how fast they go, they're not having to sit there and think about it. They just can see how the whole goes together and they can put it there. They can assimilate it very quickly, very rapidly. And that is a Mercury and Sag or a Sagittarian dynamic in general, or a Jupiterian dynamic. So the other thing that I want to speak to is that Sagittarius is dealing with our beliefs, okay? Whether they're religious or cosmological or philosophical, it's our underlying principles that give us meaning to life, our beliefs. All right. Sag is also dealing with culturally. So it's natural law, inductive reasoning, intuition, very intuitive. It's about truth. It's about sincerity. It's about honesty. It's about our culture, our beliefs, our philosophies, our cosmologies, and what we give meaning to in life, stemming from those facets of life. On the flip side, there's always a natural expression and always a distorted expression. Sagittarius can be dishonest. They can be the liars. They can also be people who over exaggerate, right? They're great storytellers. I have the Sun and Mercury in my ninth house, and I have a Venus in Sag. And there have been times in my life that I've had to go back and be like, oh, I over exaggerated and I didn't even realize it. Like I would be telling a story and get so caught up in the storytelling that instead of being like, oh, these 10 people, I was like, these hundreds of people. Like that's kind of a saggy dynamic that can happen. And so it can teach you around lessons and being honest and authentic, or having to go back and to correct. But Sagittarius is naturally opposed by Gemini. So in Sagittarius, especially like Mercury in the ninth house or Mercury in Sagittarius, we can think that we have it all figured out. It could be like the know-it-all syndrome, or it can just be, I've studied and I have all of this information and I have the ability to teach. But now you have a Gemini, a student come in who's now confronting you with your beliefs or the ways in which you're teaching or your own philosophies. And what that's doing from that feedback of Gemini is now it's creating the expansiveness in Sagittarius. It helps. We need that polarization of Gemini with Sag in order to continue to expand upon what it is that we're understanding. And to not get too comfortable, because within Mercury and Sag, or Mercury in the ninth house, I'm going to keep it to Mercury and Sagittarius since this is this transit, is this can be where, especially with Mercury and Sagittarius retrograding on the 25th of this month, this is an intensification of a couple of things. It's where we're needing to throw off or liberate from old thinking, Mercury, and beliefs, and the way we have come to understand things through giving it meaning, right? Where we might be holding on and giving too much meaning to some type of cosmology or philosophy. And so this can be a time where we get more pushback or arguments or someone not agreeing with us. And the lesson within that is to use Sag as the silver lining, right? Which is such a Sagittarian thing. It's to understand that what's true for one may not be true for another, and that is the natural law of relativity held within the sign of Sagittarius. But this Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius can really, through the conversations or the internalized process that we're going through objectifying our thinking and our beliefs and what we're giving meaning to, what it's really helping us do is it's helping us to throw off things that have had a limit, that we're kind of stuck in that type of thinking or belief structure. And then it's also, on the other hand, helping us to expand through observing it more in a natural way, out in nature, within ourselves, of what's occurring. So this is a time period with Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius where we're really utilizing this energy to be our own teacher and to also allow others to come in and teach us more about that natural law of relativity. But the dynamic of where there could be a little bit more of arguments is that we all need to watch out for personally, or what we will see out in the collective are people who are being challenged with their beliefs and they've hit a limitation. They're not expanding because they're over-identifying with that as a sense of comfort and security. And so if you are being challenged, or you're seeing someone else being challenged in this type of a way, the dynamic is to not convince or convert someone of your opinion, Mercury, of your truth, Sag. It is to understand that we can agree to disagree and you can actually learn something from that other person. It can be a teaching moment because it can help you with the retrogradation of objectifying, like, why is this happening and what am I supposed to be being taught and what am I supposed to be learning through these conversations, or where have I reached a limitation in my own thinking? And we're in Mercury shadow period right now. The retrograde shadow period. We're already seeing this on a collective level. So we're already seeing this naturally occurring law of where people are over-identifying with their beliefs and they're being challenged and confronted in order to maybe liberate from some of those, especially if they're distortions within natural law, Sagittarius. And it's hopefully to pull in more of the Mercury and Virgo, that side of Mercury, of assimilating new information from within in order to have a gnosis or an inner knowing of the actual truth, Sagittarius. So I wanted to really speak to that. The other thing that I want to share with you is I'm going to share this chart. So this is the day that this goes retrograde. And this is, again, the Greenwich chart. This is in the third house, by the way. Ooh, that looked a little wonky, didn't it? This is in the third house. And it is going to be opposing its ruler, Jupiter and Gemini, retrograde in that ninth house, okay? So they're in mutual reception. What this is really telling me is Mercury is in one of its own natural houses, all right? It's also approaching a square to Neptune. There's this need for us to expand upon our own thinking through our intuitive function, our own intuitive process during this time period. Mercury will station direct on December 15th, all right? So during this time, from now up until 2 weeks after December 15th, this is where we're really called to lean into our intuition in order to expand upon our own inner knowledge and to oppose limited thinking that might not be rooted in natural law, that might not be rooted in the dynamic of unity and diversity. There's a need for us to really be confronted with our own limitations around thinking And to anytime Mercury is retrograde, it's wanting us to lean into the intuitive side of things, into the right brain. So this is a time for whatever's coming up in your life. You would want to look at these dynamics in your own chart where they're falling. This is a time for us to be looking at where we have an inner limitation and where we need to expand to further our growth for our own evolutionary journey, especially in a time and an age that we have chosen to come into when there is a lot of propaganda or misinformation going on. This is a time to really ground into our sovereignty. And it's also about just being authentic, all right? In order to expand, to not be combative, but to remain in our authenticity and to communicate our truth. This is also a time period during this retrograde cycle where there can be conversations where you're needing to be absolutely honest with someone, and maybe you've been struggling with how to have that conversation. This is a time where I would be journaling about whatever's coming up for you in order to lean into the right brain, posing a question through journaling, allowing it through meditation to come in. There's that square to Neptune that's happening. There's the T square between Jupiter, Mercury to Neptune in that sixth house, the house of meditation, in order to connect with Source, Neptune, about how to move forward, where one needs to expand, what is a truth versus a belief, right? A lot of people we see have these beliefs going on, but a lot of us are more rooted in natural law, and we understand that that's actually not a truth. It's a distortion. It's an opinion. So this Mercury in the third house of that chart in Sag, opposing its ruler Jupiter and Gemini in the ninth house, is really calling for us to liberate from information that is not resonating with us on an authentic, honest, and sincere level. And it's having us question our own beliefs and how we've structured our values and our needs, and to really teach us about letting go of the logical, linear left brain and tapping more into that naturally occurring intuitive right brain that connects us with with source and our own higher intelligence as a way to expand. All right. So I wanted to share that with you all. I will get more into this as the weeks proceed, but I wanted to share that chart. This is an opportunity for a lot of us to really confront our own limitations and then to expand in our own personal truths. And we are going to see this play out collectively, but it is very important for you to do your own personal work. Before I move on to Mars and Leo to talk about this for just a minute, is I wanted to say that the truth can only be known through your intuition. It's why whenever you have been around someone and they're lying to you and you don't have proof, but you can just feel it. The archetype of Sagittarius dealing with our intuition is naturally linked to our instinct. Aries, a fire sign, all right, which is our kinesthetic body. That is part of one of the clairvoyance, like the voyance, clairaudience. I don't know how I'm saying this. Clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentient, all of that. One of the clairs is what I meant to say. It's linked to this principle that truth can only be known on an internal level through your own instinct and your intuition. And this is a time period where we're really being asked to go within and a lot of us to journal, to meditate, to pose a question, to ponder, and then to allow it to drop into our intuition so that way we can feel it through our instinct to know which direction we're meant to go through our own intuitive function right now. This is a time where our own limitations can be dissolved in our thinking in order for it to clear out so expansion can happen. We are really being called at this time, I feel like, with all of the extremes playing out, those of us who are more rooted in natural law, it's to be a mirror, especially with Mars and Leo, which I'm going to get into, to be a mirror that shows others a natural way of living that is rooted in giving, sharing, and inclusion, and not separation or exclusionary behavior. And so what that means is each one of us has to constantly challenge our own inner reality, our own thinking, our own beliefs, our own philosophies, our own cosmologies, and to see the beauty in diversity. That there is actually unity in diversity when we do this. This is why I always say there's more than one way to get to Denny's, right? So life is really has a lot more levity when we look at it in that way and we understand and honor that naturally occurring law of relativity. So the next thing I wanted to get into is I'm not going to share the charts today of Mars. I'm going to do a separate video on this. But Mars and Leo, I want to just speak for a minute because quite frankly, I hear some animals in my backyard going crazy. I'm glad I have a good mic and you can't hear this, but I want to do a separate video on the Mars retrograde cycle. This is really important. Mars already had its first opposition with Pluto, and they were in cardinal signs. It's going to have 2 more oppositions with Pluto throughout its retrograde cycle, but Pluto's going to be in Aquarius and Mars going to be in Leo. I love how astrology works symbiotically, like together. I love synthesizing because we've got Mercury retrograde and Mars is there's going to be a little bit of overlap, and they're both in fire signs, and you've got a fire planet, Mars, in a sign that it absolutely loves, and they're going to be working in synergy. And yes, they're going to be retrograde, but retrogrades have the ability to accelerate evolutionary growth when we work consciously with them. Because what it is with a retrograde is it's wanting us to throw off dynamics. It's about retrogrades almost remind me of Marie Kondo. That principle of putting everything in a pile, looking at it, grabbing it, sitting with it. And if it sparks joy, you keep it. And if it doesn't, you get rid of it. And then you have a very clean and decluttered house, a clean and decluttered structure. And then the things that really could bring you joy, you have room for them. That's a retrograde. A retrograde is also where we relive, repeat in order to resolve some type of dynamic. Mercury retrograde, it can be around a limitation in our thinking or in our beliefs, or where we're over-identifying with some belief structure and giving it ultimate meaning. That's part of that Jupiter Mercury T-square with Neptune. A lot of us can be confronted with needing to dissolve that dynamic of where we have an ideal around a belief or what we've learned. And we're needing to improve upon that and learn the ultimate truth that we can't over-identify with anything, because then it's like very Piscean. You grab it and it's sand falling through your hands. So there's this kind of dynamic that's going on of decluttering in our thinking in order to bring in and expand through our intuition, our own inner guidance. And then Mars and Leo is absolutely this intensification of the creative principle within each one of us. Mars is about our desires that are conscious, and now it's in the sign of Leo. It is wanting us to self-actualize in a creative way. Look at where your own natal Mars is and look at where your sun is. Your sun is going to be ruling this Mars. Look at where this Mars in Leo is falling in your chart. Mars in Leo during this cycle is going to be falling in my 4th house. There's desires for me to self-actualize right now. I've really been getting more into my own emotional dynamics and nurturing them. Like I've been keeping pictures. This is so Mars and Leo in my 4th house. By the way, and also my sun is in Capricorn in the 9th. So wanting to facilitate and having desires to be my own authority through healing my own inner child. So I've been keeping pictures of little me around my house to look at and talk to, right? This is just how it's coming up for me. And it's because it's been sparked by Mars and Cancer, which it's going to dip back into in January. And it will station direct February in the sign of Cancer. But I was having these family dynamics come up. I lost someone in my family, and it was really getting me into my emotional process. And also, I'm having to nurture my children right now as they're going through a grieving process as well. So this is kind of how it's happening in my life. And this is the beauty about astrology, is it's a natural law. It's a natural science where it's observable. You can see these things, you can observe them happening in your own life if you know what the archetypes are within your own chart, or the sign, or the planet, or the house. And so Mars in Leo is really wanting us to self-actualize in the areas of what our sun is in our chart, and also the house that it's falling in our own natal chart. This is also where we could be dealing with dynamics of, in a Leonian way, of really wanting to be acknowledged or understood. I know that I'm having to surrender to that whenever it comes to certain family members, right? Just as another way to express this. And it's where we are needing to understand that sometimes that acknowledgement isn't going to happen. And then it's about having self-love, Leo, and dignity, and finding that within yourself and not needing it externally. Mars and Leo can really be the soul desiring to learn this dynamic of pulling in its polarity. Aquarius, to learn about inclusivity and not to be in inclusivity, being a part of exclusive behavior. It's more about bringing in community. And Mars and Leo is teaching these lessons. The soul is desiring to teach each one of these lessons of our own unique individuality, and how each one of us is just as important as the next person. And that whenever we understand that, there is no competition, there is no exclusionary behavior. There is only inclusivity and giving and sharing that happens. And bringing in Mercury retrograde and Sag with this, it helps us to expand upon this naturally occurring law. And it helps us to express this with other people. And Leo can be about mirroring, and Aquarius can be about projecting that mirror, right? So I challenge you to look at where your sun is in your own chart. A Mars and Leo with the sun sign in Scorpio could be teaching the soul how to strengthen through its own unique individuality, and now it's needing to share its resources with others. Mars and Leo with a sun sign in Libra could be teaching about how we give and we receive, and that both are equal. In order to receive more, we can actually be needing to learn the creative function of giving in order to receive. there's a lot of ways that this can really show up and manifest. And a lot of us can be having these desires to self-actualize through dynamics of advocating or through being an activist right now and speaking up and teaching people about love and dignity and inclusion. This is where also the darker side of Leo we can be seeing during this very long transit. The distortions of leadership, where it's more in exclusionary behavior and not inclusive behavior. On a collective level, when we get those two more passes of Mars opposing Pluto, we'll really be seeing this out in the collective. And what it's going to be teaching the collective is to liberate from where they've over-identified with exclusionary behavior. And at the end of the day, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to like fear monger. At the end of the day, we each need to do our own individual work and to be a Leo mirror that is about and is rooted naturally in love, dignity, and respect. If there is something that you have been desiring to do, you have an idea that is creative and it feels like it could nurture your soul. This is a time period where you want to be preparing how to do this. This is also a time period where all of a sudden some of us could be getting recognized and having a Leonian light shined on us. And there can be lessons in staying humble, but stepping into our own self-love and self-dignity and our own power and to act on those desires in an integral way. On the flip side, if you've been acknowledged a lot and all of a sudden you're not, it could be teaching you lessons on how to nurture yourself without being validated from any type of outside source. So as the weeks go on, I will continue to peel back the layers of the Mars and Mercury onion through the retrograde cycles. And I will have more time this next week to do more videos. This last week was a bit challenging for me. I've been so busy, but I really am looking forward to teaching these asteroid goddesses. I'm just extremely excited about it. I'm going to be posting on my website where I'm going to go over everything. And be on the lookout for that later on today. If you're subscribed on my website, you will get the email that gives the class outline and talks a little bit about each class and the overall class series and how to sign up for it. If you can't wait to see that, you can go onto my website and there's instructions on how to purchase that and get the link for that live class. I love each and every one of you, even if I haven't met you. We are in extraordinary times, and it's so important for each one of us to work with these retrogrades in a conscious and constructive way. If I haven't said this enough during this video, we are very much called to return to our natural state of being, which is rooted in giving, sharing, and inclusion, which is rooted in natural laws, which is rooted in observing nature and osmosing those lessons within, just as much as different indigenous tribes have done for eons. We are really called to get back into our emotional body and to accelerate our growth through doing so and to recover our own intuition and instinct and our ability to think for ourselves authentically and sincerely right now. And then to use our desires to motivate us to do good in the world. This is the Mercury retrograde and Mars retrograde cycle in a nutshell. Again, I will expand more on this as the weeks go by, but I didn't want to go another day without putting a video out there for you guys because I know a lot of you look forward to it. I will see you all soon within a day or two for another video. And I know the world is sad right now. A lot of us are. And I just want you to feel my love and know that even if I've never met you, I'm hugging you so hard and I energetically feel the love back. All right. Have a good weekend and I will see you soon.